Hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on, everybody? It's Angelus representing for the Gray Pill Podcast. I want to make sure my mic is okay because I went back to watch myself on replay. I try not to do that too much, and it sounded a little bit too loud. So just let me know if the audio is okay. I appreciate you. Mic check, mic check. You're gonna test in the audio real quick. Mic check, mic check. Hey, what's going on, cool gamer? I saw a second body dropped in here. Alrighty. Testies 1 2. I was trying to get a mic check real quick. I appreciate everybody for coming on through. Just want to get a mic check. I like a new setup I was playing around with. So if you don't mind, just let me know if you can hear me very clearly on the mic. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Appreciate you, alternate. Thank you very much. All right. So what's going on, guys? It was a conversation of Matt Walsh. I guess he was doing a reaction or conversation, which I found out between his Twitter feed and just Pearly Things that goes by Pearly, where she was actually they're doing like a little Twitter war back and forth, which I thought was kind of odd and weird. Hey, SB, I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. I love your avatar. Finally made it to one of your live streams. Yeah, work. It usually be every Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Central time. So I don't know what your time zone is, but every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Central time, we have like group conversations. And then random sporadically it'd be like, either Sunday, Monday, or Wednesday. So I had some stuff lined up for today. So technically it's gonna be like two, but I know everybody got life during the weekday. So it's going to be this stream, have a conversation in relations to Matt Walsh versus Pearly Things. They pretty much he had a response to her and how her behavior is to her platform, and then false slash negative narrative that she's been pushing for the past, I think, a little bit over a year. And then later on tonight, I'll be at Anza Nights for like so. Then I think maybe like 11:30. Okay. Yeah, it's every Tuesday. I know sometimes people don't catch in. I've been working on just putting timestamps onto the long streams lives I do, because I know a lot of people with their attention span, and you try to reference some things to some conversations on a live stream and be like, hey, well, I don't want to go back and watch a whole 2 hour live stream. So I was like, well, let me just make sure I put the effort and just put in timestamps for everybody. So everybody's there, whether if it's not me, it's somebody that you like, for timestamps in there, even down to the link, because a few guys and ladies is content creators, and I pretty much tag them in there too, so you know where to check them out. We have somebody from Melco Truth does like a lot of revisits on crime history, current and past. So that's pretty much, she was a guest on here yesterday. She did a CrimeCon yesterday, which I didn't know that was actually a thing. Every time I hear the con, I think of Comic Con, stuff like that with the comics, the favorite shows or sci-fi history, stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty interesting on her channel. But definitely, I definitely appreciate you, SB, for jumping on through. So we're gonna have the conversation about Pearly Things. So anybody know who Pearly Things is? Pearly Things, in my less than a better word, a very, very privileged young lady, is 26 years old, that's been echoing and copying a lot of the talking points of One, for example, guy that passed away by the name Kevin Samuels, to talk about a lot of controversial relationships. Another pop that's actually living, Fresh and Fit, is a very popular, very, very controversial podcast with credit to themselves that talk about a lot of red pill, manosphere talking points, and then down the list a few others. And she got very popular with that to the point where she just says like a lot of random stuff with no substance, no real fact checking involved. Like she'll just take one part of it and just run with it. And somehow she blew it from there. And a lot of people that follow her in the comment section of the live stream is, in my opinion, just sheep. So they'll just say, hey, Pearly is God, Pearly is this, put a lot of crowns on top of her head when she has no experience. And what I mean by no experience, when she's talking about a lot of layers of relationships. She's currently 26 years old, been single for the past 3 years. The last relationship she was in was documented and actually brought up to lights on YouTube Spaces, where she was catfished by the guy. He just happened to be overweight and he happened to be black. There's nothing wrong with the race, but everything I'm naming is something that she spoke up against in a very toxic and negative way and behavior. So, for example, she said, all big women is a little bit over a certain amount of weights. Let's say you might be 10 pounds, 20 pounds. Heck, you might be 30. There's some big girls out there. Shout out to the attractive big girls and the thick women and the plus size women. She calls them all whales, and she give like context over and over again. That was the first one. Then she talked about black women. That was a whole nother one. She still intertwines little jokes and slurs. She actually made up another controversial topic where she's like, hey, all women should not vote. Okay. All women shouldn't vote. She doesn't give a rhyme or reason. She just, hey, women should just not vote at all. Women should just be like technically barefoot and pregnant in the household. And so on, so on, so on. So she just continues and go from there. So there's been other content creators that actually spoke up against her. Shout out to thank you, SB. Just Tree is definitely one of them. That's always been in her Twitter feed. Some other people, everything she does do on Twitter, and she get caught. She's like the type of little 5 and 6 year old that get their hands stuck in a cookie jar, and then your parents actually seeing you stealing the cookie, and then they still say, I didn't take the cookie. I don't know. I'm looking at you do it. That's pretty much how Pearl is when she's up on Twitter. So anytime people like currently now, Matt Walsh to speak up against her, she's the kid with a hand in the cookie jar. She don't JoJo don't know nothing. That's pretty much his Pearl. JoJo don't know nothing. Or if you speak up against her, like Morgan Pearson, one time he had on for 3 times. The first 2, if I don't had like a very good conversation. The third time, he pretty much warned her like, "Hey, gloves coming off," and that was it. And you're 100% right. 100% right. Alleged. Exactly. I pretty much in my that and among other things. So we're gonna have reaction and see what we can have conversation about. So I appreciate again SB coming on through. Definitely, if you're new, hit the subscribe button. Definitely hit the like bell because it helps out. Make sure the bell notification is set to all. I had a conversation with somebody in Discord because they couldn't understand like why they couldn't see some of their old content creators. It helps a lot. So if you're already subscribed, make sure the bell is on hit on all, because YouTube is very funny, has silly little ways where it will either unsubscribe your favorite content creator or it will not notify you what's up. So I may see it, but you may not. So definitely make sure you hit the all bell notification. So shout out to you, OG Patrice. I hope you have like 5 minutes or 2 out your busy schedule. Stick around for the conversation, even though, educated people like yourself, you already know where this heads down the road. And we're going to do a reaction to also OG Patrice. I may do it like, I'm going to say maybe next week. I actually have to work Thursday. I was going to plan it for Thursday, but it might be Wednesday, where I asked Nathan Daly multiple times, try to get a conversation out about where he felt, and this is his words, I don't want to paraphrase. His words was he felt Pearly Things wasn't racist versus the review that he did pretty much a few months ago. We spoke on a panel. He offered to do a debate with that particular conversation because he agrees that he disagrees and said that she's not racist. I agree that she is racist, among other things, and he offered to have the conversation. But unfortunately, YouTube ducking. I guess that's the phrase now or the term. So I haven't heard from him since about it. I even did like a very formal offer again within the community time step, the Gray Pill podcast, and haven't heard from him again, but I still support him. You know, he's a fellow content creator. So I can't have the debate with the real Nathan Daly. I guess I have to have the debate with the virtual Nathan Daly. So I will be doing a reaction to the video per his talking points. Shout out to you, brother Jumby. Appreciate you, knowledge and relationship. Dangerously active. Appreciate you. And cool gamer. So let's get it. SB says, I was trying to be nice, but saying, yeah, hey, nothing wrong with that. You got to. She is, in my opinion, which is weird. Somebody in the Discord, like, I guess something I put in the recent community time, the recent community tab. It was like, prove to me. I'm like, I don't have to prove nothing to you. I don't have to prove nothing to you. Go do your homework. If you can't see with your own two eyes and the third eye the good Lord gave you, it should be no conversation at that point. I just pretty much understand and know where you stand at. So you will be okay. Much prayers and blessings to you. So, all right. So let me go ahead and share this real quick. I want to make sure everybody can see the screen good enough. There we go.
I've spent a lot of time in my career defending the institution of marriage, and I defend it because it's the bedrock of civilization, so it deserves defending, and I defend it because it's under constant attack, so it needs defending. And one of the most troubling developments in recent years, which we've discussed on the show in the past, is that these attacks are increasingly waged not just from the left, but from certain noisy segments of the right as well. Some right-wing influencers with legions of young, mostly male fans have decided that men should abandon marriage and family life and go their own way. And these influencers, many of whom consider themselves a part of the so-called red pill movement, pretend to...
And MGTOW. Let's just throw it out there too. And he's talking about MGTOW.
Who despise feminists and yet have essentially arrived at the same conclusion as feminists, which is that we should give up on the family. The two sides hate marriage almost as much as they hate each other. Now, one of these influencers is a woman named Pearl Davis, who has garnered a relatively large following on YouTube and various social media platforms. She's in her mid-20s, single and childless, and yet full of opinions about modern marriage and family life, a subject that she has no personal insight into whatsoever. She spent the past few days on the internet complaining about quote-unquote tradcons like myself, who, she says, promote the nuclear family despite not understanding what it's really like. Yes, we men who actually have wives.
Which is funny. I figured she would understand that since her mother and father's pretty much, got like 8-9 siblings, including herself. But at the same time, I remember in her video/interview when she had like the mother and the father there, and the mom and dad was actually talking about, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Knowledge. I did like stuff like those kind of. I don't even want to like to bring up those. It's bad enough like we say, I know you and M3 don't really bring it up, but it kind of comes up like a trigger within the conversation for most people. And M3 pretty much brought up, like, and I'm speaking of the phrase like manosphere, black pill, red pill, MGTOW. I don't even like to try to bring those up. So it's pretty much an issue. It's pretty much an issue. I got you, Columbus Hill. Appreciate you.
Wives and children don't know what it's like to be married, but a woman who is not married and has no children does know what it's like. In one of her tweets, she wrote, quote, "The tradcons push marriage because they aren't old enough to know better. They don't know the reality of what they're pushing." This is accompanied by a picture of myself, Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles. We aren't old enough to know better and don't know the reality of what we're pushing, yet a woman who is younger than us and single does know better and does understand this reality. In another post, she goes on to say that marriage is a terrible deal for men, and she later explains, quote, "Would you ever sign a contract that fails?"
Now, let's be fair about that. Most people that are married that I know, that's me personally, and same way she's speaking anecdotally, I'm going to speak anecdotally myself. people that I know personally, I pretty much think of my cousin and one of my best friends. They've been married over 10 years plus. I never heard them complain about their wife suck or let me get home. Let me, nothing negative out the sorts. There are successful marriages out there, the ones that's been 5, 10, 20 years. And most of them just like even a guy that's pretty much a also another content creator that's way far from my niche, but sometimes be on my panel as a platform as a guest. He's late mid 20s, pretty much around pro age, between like a 2-year difference. He never had a complaint at all. It's just the I feel like he's an old soul. So anecdotally versus her quote unquote anecdotal talking point, it doesn't make any sense. So we can't speak in absolutes when we say like that. You got to have the communication. You got to have the foundation. Heck, it was even also suggested here on the platform where if you're going to go that route, if we're vetting each other and we're courting, that might just not be enough. Sometimes, hey, before marriage, therapy is even offered too. Shout out to Damien and other guys out there that's been married 20-some plus years. Even the guy that was here that's younger, he's been like not even a year yet married. He took the same thing. He went out his way and got counseling. They both went counseling to understand each other better, how to move forward within their marriage, if you're new. So I would suggest that also. But I don't hear anything like this coming from Pearl. Hey, what's up, Alicia? Go ahead and make you a mod real quick. I appreciate you coming on through. If you have time to stick around for the conversation, because it will be a good one. Shout out to Marcus. Thank you. Appreciate you. And DL, like always, my YouTube friendly nemesis. Probably like the only red pillar that always self plugs every daggone thing, but I can actually respect him to be respectful on the platform. So shout out to him. But it's still triggering every time he says stuff. So I appreciate you, sir. Hey, what's going on? What's good with you, Cheeky? Cheeky, Alicia, I'll make sure that I make your mods as this conversations go through. So I appreciate y'all.
75% of the time where your business partner is paid to break the contract, why would you encourage men to sign that contract until the terms are fixed? Now,
that's easy. The same 70-30% contract she tried to get Sarah Garvey to sign in her contract deal, and she said it was the best deal ever. But now all the people that were surrounding her, Sarah Garvey, that she actually went out her way to, because he spoke up against her. She actually had his channel removed, which he got it back like in 7-10 days because she tried to silence him. And then she had King Riches with the quote unquote 70-30 deal. That didn't work out. He's not with her no more. Then what's his name? Auntie Jenny. She was hardcore, a real supporter of Pearly things. Now she's not there no more. So that's why some things just doesn't add up, and there's a pattern.
Now, you may be surprised to learn that marriages fail at a rate of 75%. The figure that people like this normally use is 50%. And the claim that 50% of marriages end in divorce is already spurious, and we'll have more on that in a moment. But 75%?
Too high.
I was wondering where that number came from, so I scrolled down and I saw something that she reposted from an alleged lawyer who said this, quote, "It's not 50-50. That only accounts for divorces." Another
I got you. I'm gonna read it for you. Then you can go ahead and echo it, good sir. This is from a lawyer that he said he saw from one piece of stat. It's not 50-50. It's only counts of divorce. Add another 25% on the negative side of miserable men trapped and cheaper to keep her marriages, unwilling to risk financial destruction and loss of their children. 75% chance bad outcome is just as a bad plan. No sane person would enter into a commercial contract such as term. Now, let me speak on that because it's somebody I know, right? And there's women out there too. So we're not going to sit there and play silly like there's no such thing as that. We do understand there are women that stay in marriages because they don't have no financial gain or no financial leverage. The man pretty much either have either the prenup or he has everything in his name. So if that woman decides to leave, she gets nothing at all. There is marriages like that too. All right. Women have spoke up about that. There's women that say, "Hey, you know what? I'm in the marriage. It's I can't stand the guy. We're in the same roof together. I don't even sleep in the same bed. I'm like far in the house, but I like the lifestyle I live. Like I like the perks of the lifestyle. I get the car that he paid for full. He gives me allowance, so I'm gonna stick to where I'm at now." Knowing they're miserable. But their response to that is, "Hey, you know what? I prayed on it. I'm okay with where I'm at now." But in the same breath, hey, he's a horrible person. He's a narcissist. He's mean. He always complain when I make him dinner. Blah 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 blah. But those women still stay with that guy. Why? Because he pays all the bills. He got everything in his name. So again, it's always an anti to something else. It's always. So we can't always put it on one side of the fence when there's something else. So just think about that.
For 25% on the negative side for miserable men trapped in cheaper to keep her marriages, unwilling to risk financial destruction and loss of their children. 75% chance of a devastatingly bad outcome is just a bad plan. No sane person would enter into a commercial contract on such terms. Now, I did ask him where he got this 75% figure from, and he wouldn't say. Apparently, the magic statistic fairy came and whispered it in his ear.
That's what they always do. Every time you ask somebody specific, just basic questions, which is pretty much what Pearl does 24/7. You don't have to antagonize her. You don't have to call her names. Just ask basic questions, and that's pretty much what everybody problem is, except for Ethan. Shout out to him and Abram Preach and the other guys that have common sense. Just a little bit of common sense. You ask basic questions to Pearl. She throws her hands up and does the little scoffing and all the little silly stuff she do, and that's pretty much her way out. And then she giggles and laughs. So, which is I'm pretty much going to diagnose it. That's a mental problem. That's the only way to answer that. I believe Pearl has a mental problem.
Now, for her part, Pearl later tweeted a picture of Pierce Brosnan with his wife of 20 years, and she questioned whether the marriage counts as successful since Brosnan's wife has put on some weight at the age of 60. So apparently, even if they're happy and have remained married for 2 decades, they still might fall into that 75% failure rate because they have not both remained in supermodel condition into their 60s.
Which I don't do body shaming, you know what? Because I'm an equal opportunity employer with the relationship. But at the same time, if you know you got a lazy eye, why are you trying to pick at somebody else's features? And that's pretty much what I see what Pearl does all the time. She would call women well. She would dictate every little thing about them, some physical features. But I seen the opposite end. People say, "Hey, Pearl, you can't talk because, hey, for example, you're built like a linebacker, Pearl. Hey, Pearl, you can't talk. You're overweight. Hey, Pearl, you have a gut. Hey, Pearl, why don't you like do some cosmetics like with your hair? Hey, Pearl, your hair is thinning. Hey, Pearl." Like it's always something. So again, when people started shaming people in that type of way, you're pretty much projecting. Either Pearl want to be like other people, either Pearl like is jealous of all these other people. There's a problem with those type of people. So that part.
This debate on social media brought out the rest of the marriage skeptical crowd on the right. A bunch of these red pill influencers decided to hop on an emergency Zoom call and spend 2 hours talking about me, the Daily Wire.
That's all they do. That's all they do. When I did a reaction, just reacting, didn't speak on him on it in any ill way. Just had a conversation about Pearl's interview with Nick Fuentes. You know what happened on that part one? Over 30-something plus white supremacist supporters of Nick Fuentes just rolled on in there. And they didn't have nothing to say. The only comments they had was consistency was dropping strawberries. That was the most weirdest thing ever. The second thing they did was like asking me to debate consistently some random guy I don't even know, which is weird too.
And our reckless promotion of society's most fundamental institution. Now, there's one clip here that you should see. This is
shout out to Alicia. She says, "I'm locked in. I'm at work." Okay, I appreciate you, lady. Thank you. It was something Jay said. It was pretty interesting. Jay says, "Hey, I thought Pearl Pearl signed with Matt Walsh. Yeah, we're gonna get into that, Jay. We're gonna get into that. We're so gonna get into it. So gonna get into it. Shout out to SB. SB says, I still cannot tell with 100% certainty if she's a grifter, damage, or mentally. Yeah, it's like a combination of three. I can't pinpoint none of it. I will say definitely she's a grifter. That was a conversation in Discord where people just swore it down. She's not. And I'm like, what? What? I think we'll leave it in the hands of the professionals. Shout out to Taylor May. Taylor May says Pearl is insufferable in all groups. I agree. And she is holding it. She's locking it down. She has it locked down. But yeah, and it's like I said, Jay, we're going to get into that.
Apparently, a divorce lawyer who says that the failure rate for marriage is not 50% and it's not 75%. It is, in fact, even higher. Listen.
I think marriage can be successful. Of course. It's just not something that's as scalable as we as a society are trying to pretend it is. Marriage is, and I've said this 100 times, and I'll say it 100 more. Marriage is like the lottery. You are probably not going to win. Okay? You're probably not going to win. Don't make that your 401k. You're probably not going to win. But if you win, what you win is so great that I don't blame you for buying a ticket and trying. I personally don't buy lottery tickets. But when somebody says, yeah, I played a lottery, hey, man, somebody's got to win. And you know what? As long as you're not blowing money that you need for food or to put shoes on your kids' feet, you're not hurting anybody. Go out, give it a try. So I always tell people, listen, marriage, when it works, when you have somebody who's married 20 plus years and they're still crazy about each other, that is the exception, not the rule. But when you do,
I agree to that part personally, but at the same time, I will add to this. People need to understand what they are getting into when it comes to marriage. Understand your intent. I say this all the time with every conversation. Understand your intent. If marriage is coming from that other chick, let's just say she's the most attractive woman in the world. She got everything lined up. She's crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's. And she says, hey, I'm about marriage. I'm about children. I would love the house and a white picket fence. Those are like the three main basic things she's saying. And you're not ready for one of three of those, then don't marry her. More importantly, don't string her along as if you're going to get married. Heck, I would even tell both parties, men and women, have a time frame for yourself if you're doing the dating to see what this person's about. So I feel like James Saxon's right on, but it's pretty much the outcome. Everybody keep looking for the outcome. Nobody really digs into like the nuts and bolts of the actual marriage. Nobody really digs in that. And since we're looking at Rolo face in the top left corner, which is kind of weird for me because he's 27. He's like what 27 something years in marriage, and he's promoting people to not get married. Just don't get married. Okay, but you are married. That's weird. You have a child by your marriage.
Do it. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So why not buy the ticket, take the ride, but have a prenup? Wear a seatbelt, guys. You can be a safe driver, but wear a seatbelt.
So a happy marriage, he says, is like winning the lottery. And the thing about the lottery is that almost everybody loses. This is a perfect summation of how this entire club views marriage and the message that they're sending to young men in particular. Sure, it can be great, they concede, but only if you're insane. Everybody else is screwed. This is a rather bleak view of marriage, and thankfully, it's also
That's
nonsense.
what I heard. Keep on preaching, Matt. Another single guy here. Keep on preaching.
First of all, the claim that marriage isn't scalable is obviously ridiculous because marriage has served as the bedrock of human society since time immemorial. It has already happened at the scale of civilization for thousands of years. Now, the divorce lawyers come along and say that, this thing that society's been doing forever, turns out it doesn't work. unless you're the one in a million. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous claim.
The manosphere in that end and all instances, their talking points. Again, nothing comes with real solutions. Nothing comes with pre-solutions of how to have a successful marriage, how to have a successful relationship. A lot of people I even had on this platform that's been like together over 10, 20 years, 16 years, is not even legally married. Why is that? Because it's a conversation based on what your intent. What do you want out of the relationship? If we're just sleeping around together, okay, cool. Let's have a conversation. If we're friends with benefits, okay, cool. Let's have the conversation. If we're married, I think we had a joke one time with between me inking the chat and I'm on the platform. Hey, you just want to marry me for the tax write-off. That's the thing too. But again, it still comes with a conversation. What is your intent in this relationship between us two as a unit? A lot of people now look at marriages like, oh, just all this, like the circus, bells and whistles, which is honestly very disrespectful and disingenuous to the actual people that's married. I hear people on my platform all the time talk about, hey, the work they put in their marriage, but you have other people like this that's pushing toxic narrative as if it's all a joke, and it's not. People that's married, that have been married, that's starting to get married, that's newly married, put hard work into this on themselves, number one, and in each other, and outcasting all the negative that's coming in from there. Like, we got to really think about this. We got to really think about this.
Now, what about the failure rate of marriages in our culture? We've heard 50%, we've heard 75%. We just heard that they fail at a rate similar to the rate that people lose the lottery, which would mean higher than 99%, a lot.
And who really, honestly, who really playing the lottery? Unless you're just a gambler, and even that's a disease. Who's playing the lottery? I'm not.
Higher. Yet these kinds of astronomical odds are not based in anything but the doom and gloom speculations of the people inventing them. There is no evidence that having a happy marriage is as unlikely as winning the lottery, or that 75% of marriages end in misery. And what about the 50% number? Well, this is at least is a familiar statistic. It's something that you've probably heard before. Right. 50% of marriages end in divorce. It's familiar, but it is bogus. And one way that you know that it's bogus is that people have been claiming that 50% of marriages end in divorce since I was a kid. I've been hearing that my whole life. And that would mean that divorce rates are sick across time. But of course, that isn't the case. In fact, we know that divorce rates have gone down in recent years. So where does the 50% figure come from? Apparently, it's a holdover from the 1980s, which is when people first started citing that statistic. It's not true today. And it's actually not clear that it was true even in the 80s either. So what is the actual divorce rate? It's a little bit hard to determine. Probably our best guess is based on U.S. Census data, which according to the most recent figures, says that about 35% of American adults who have been married have been divorced. So it's not exactly going to give us a precisely scientific figure of what the divorce rate is, but it's as close as we're going to get, 35%.
And even with that being said, we're talking about what? Like, people can play around with the data. Again, back to the reasons. Why is the reason for the divorce? Why was the reason for the marriage? Why was the reason for people standing together? And I just given a few. Again, this is just me anecdotal, because again, this is my experience from what I've seen and what I know, right? So what I've seen is, hey, I gave one. The woman stayed in marriage because the husband pays all the bills. He got everything in his name. So clearly she's not leaving. She made that, hey, this is my life, how it is now. She put in 20 years. She's not going nowhere. Unless the next guy comes in and say, hey, I'm going to take care of you. So I'm going to take care of you, but at the same time, I'm a little bit better. Now that's one. Now you have another one. And again, this is somebody from my family that's like 30 plus something, 40 years married. I'm not going to say they can't stand each other, but respectfully, they are honoring each other as husband and wife, but they're in living separate quarters. That's the thing too. They are underbound for them under the eyes of the Lord and say, hey, we don't believe in divorce. That's a whole nother separate group. Okay. Then you have another separate group that say, hey, you know what? We got everything written on contract. This is what our agreement is. That's another separate group. Then you have the groups out there just divorcing for every other reason. Hey, I don't like her hair. This one snores. This one had the toothpaste somewhere else. Family's in our business. Somebody's coming to my job. You're insecure. You have so many different reasons for divorce, just like you have so many reasons of people staying together. And it's not always the nuclear family. It's not always the nuclear family.
And 35% is high. I mean,
heck, let me just add it, because I just thought about this too. I even seen multiple videos of majority of women said, hey, I felt like I was a little bit different. And y'all know what I mean by that. Shout out to Rainbow community. I felt I was a little bit different, but I still stayed with a guy because society pressured me to, just because I am the opposite sex, to get with that spouse. And once I did, had a child, I broke up with that person. I've heard that plenty of times before. So again, people are doing things for the wrong reason. And that's another one.
it's way too high. It's not 50% though. And it's not 75%. And it's not 99%. And it's definitely not lottery odds. Still, isn't it terrifying to think that if you get married, your chance of failure is 35%? And the chance of success is only 65%
I don't even look at it that way.
At the most.
If you got to have that type of number in your head, you're already building up insecurities for yourself. Like, I understand, play the odds in your favor, right? But how far? It's like that weird little thing they said before. This red pill talking point with Fresh and Fit. They're talking about the used car, the salesman, all that stuff, right? Every time you do something outside your house, you go get a job, you might lose that job tomorrow. You get a brand new car. That brand new car might tear down the next day after, whatever the reasons. Do you say, hey, well, I got warranty on it? Okay, great. But you're still part of that relationship you have with that item. Hey, I rent my apartment. Many things can happen. The landlord might go bankrupt. I might lose the apartment, but I'm still paying my rent though. Same thing, relationship with your family. It's always something's going to come up. So if we're going to play that same game, we need to play that same game with everything else in our life that we do. If that's the case, if you got that much animosity on the percent scale and you're that scary about it, you might as well just go ahead, just don't even exist. That's what life is about. That's life. Now, true, is life about, hey, let me just get up and suffer every day with a person that clearly I don't like? No, I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. Don't deal, and I mean it, don't deal with somebody you know it's not going to go no further than what your expectations is, what your boundaries in your relationship. I don't care if you're gay, straight, trans, whatever your boundaries is for your own self-respect, your own personal bubble. Don't move no further forward with that. If you see red flags, check them right there. And depending on the red flags, you have to ask yourself, can I tolerate this? We'll use something like, oh, they snore. Is this something I can deal with for the rest of my life? Yes or no? Oh, man or woman hits on me, beats on me, cops getting called, or better yet, let's dial it down just a little bit. Hey, or this person is rude to everybody I meet. This person is disrespectful to everybody I meet. So guess what's going to happen? He or she may be disrespectful to you. Fellas, if you don't like a loud, obnoxious, annoying, talkative woman, and you feel like, hey, this is not for you because you're pretty much chill, laid back, and a quiet person, and you're pretty much a homebody, then guess what? That is not for you. Don't push it no forward. Why? Because she's giving me the best head. Why? Because she's looking great, and the society is giving you all the fist bumps and the elbow bumps. Like, yeah, man, she looked pretty cool and hot. It doesn't matter. Your peace of mind comes first. Same thing with ladies. If disrespectful, everything else, you got to have boundaries. You got to have self-respect comes first. The moment you lose your self-respect on both angles, It's not. And communication is the key to everything. To everything.
Even if we go with that number, isn't that still very, very scary? Isn't it high enough that it should dissuade anyone from attempting it? The answer to that question is no. And here's why. If the divorce rate is 35%, or even if it's 50%, it does not follow that your own particular marriage has a 35 or 50% chance of failure. Now, I'm not saying that you should be cocky or reckless or that you should see yourself as invincible.
Correct.
I am saying that you shouldn't, on the other extreme, see yourself as passive debris floating helplessly on the tide of statistical likelihoods. Because you are an individual. Your marriage is an individual thing. And its chances of failure are not set by society at large. So here's an example to illustrate what I mean. And this is really, really important to understand because as marriage rates fall, and those are falling, the thing that convinces so many people to not marry in the first place are numbers like this. And this misconception that, well, look at the divorce rate, and that is my own specific chance of getting divorced. And I'm here to tell you that that's not how it works.
And that screams projecting and insecurity, but let's talk about it.
Well, a company's looking out for you when they actually upgrade your service and don't charge you for it. This is great news for new and current Pure Talk customers. Pure Talk just added data to every plan and includes a mobile hotspot with no price increase whatsoever. If you've considered Pure Talk before, but you haven't made the switch, take a look again. For just $20 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, and now 50% more 5G data, plus their new mobile hotspot. That's why I love Pure Talk. They are veteran-owned. They only hire the best customer service team located right here in the great USA. Most families are saving almost $1,000 a year while enjoying the most dependable 5G network in America. Remember, you vote with how you spend your money, so stop supporting woke wireless companies that don't support you. When you go to puretalk.com/Walsh, you'll save an additional 50% off your first month because they actually value you. That's puretalk.com/Walsh. Pure Talk, wireless for Americans by Americans. So I think this illustrates it. The obesity rate in the United States is over 40%. Does that mean that your own chances of becoming obese are 40%? No, it doesn't. Your chances might be 5%. They might be practically zero, or they might be quite a bit higher than 40%. That's because obesity is the result of behavior and choices. If you do not engage in the behavior or make the choices that lead to obesity, you will not become obese. The fact that 40% of people around you are fat does not mean that you automatically have a 40% obesity risk.
That is so true. And the fact that you can change that, what we just said earlier, working on self, the fact that you can change that speaks volumes. Again, it's life. We understand. You might have, when it comes to health and fitness, you might have a lot of triggers for you. Me, myself, I say, hey, I know me. I love to eat. So I take out all the sugars, the snacks out my cabinet. Heck, I might even hide it for myself. You know how you put some stuff away and you can't find it later? Like, oh, I seen that for so far. It happens. You have to do certain things and work on yourself like that just to make sure you don't fall in those type of traps. It's a thing.
Now let's take another example. Car accidents. Americans get into car accidents at a certain rate. I'm not sure what the rate is. It doesn't matter for our purposes. What does matter is that your own individual chance of getting into a car accident is not the same as every other driver on the road. The people who compile statistics will say things like, motorists have an X% chance of getting into a collision. But you are not just a generic motorist. You are an individual. Now, you can never bring your own chance of dying in a fiery car wreck down to zero. But if you're a responsible driver, then obviously your chances of getting into an accident are much lower than the chances of someone who is not responsible. All of those stupid drivers who don't understand the basic rules of the road and like to tweet and eat while they drive and everything else, they're inflating the numbers for everyone. They're also making the roads more dangerous for everyone. They are actually actively making your own chances of getting into a car accident higher because the roads are filled with stupid people. But your chances are not as high as their chances. You do not share their level of risk unless you're as dumb as they are. Because again, you are an
And we all know anybody got their license for the first year. We seen a lot of dumb drivers out there. So let's not act like they was hey, and I was young, so I was one of those dumb drivers too. The first vehicle I got was like 2000 and something Chevy Camaro. That was my fun car for the summer. I was all over those Jersey streets. You could tell me nothing. And when it was snowing too, man, I was too cool for all the school. Shout to the says good evening everyone. Salute to Great Pill in the chat. Appreciate you. And again, another example right here of a married couple who've been around married for like, and I'm just maybe I'm screwing the numbers here, but you can be more accurate for me. The says I would say they've been married for like what over 15 years. They can give you so much. Those are people I would want to come to. I won't take everything they said, but I will generally hear their advice when it comes to marriage, growth, and development. And they have children together. Like, come on, like, what's going on with that? Another one here. Shout to Jedi Mike, young cat. You know, remind me back in the day versus he got excellent hearing and articulate skills. You know, he got that old soul, right? He got married. He's in his mid-20s. Let's say 23, 24. I'm probably, again, I might be screwing the numbers. A year off. But he's pretty much around. He's the perfect example I was mentioning earlier. He's pretty much a year or two between Pearly things. And it's like, what's off? He did everything the right way. But even if you still do the right way of moving forward in a relationship, we understand, I'm sure he understands that, hey, bumps might happen down the road. Everything isn't an absolute. So, but at the same time, you just have to prepare for it. Doesn't mean he's going to prepare or the says is going to prepare for, let me prepare for the worst thing ever relationship. I never heard on every platform with these two. I feel like, you know what? For them, they are the example of the fun couple. You know what I'm saying? It feels like, okay, they actually put work into a relationship. So when everybody see them, you would never get a hint of toxicity, disrespect. Them other couples be just like the dude don't even want to pull out the chair for her, don't even want to open the door. If she give like a tip on the side, she kind of be like scoffing or rude about it. I don't get this vibes from this couple right here. I get this married couple like they're just like the fun couple. Every time I see the Instagram, every time I see them on platforms, those are examples you want in a relationship. But guess what? It's cool to see from the outside looking in, but I'm very sure they would tell you all the time, it's work. Now, their way may not work for everybody else 100%, but here's maybe some tools between them two. We have a seasoned generation of marriage versus a young generation of marriage. They would be on the same plateau. It just works. It fits. You got to have the tools. And I'm sure they can give it a lot of examples what works for their marriage, just like Jedi Mike and his wife, what works for them. Shout out to Inky. Okay, he says it's 18 years of count. Look at this. Shout out to you. I ain't gonna lie. Every time I watch these platforms and I see all this little toxicity with the communities that preach the stuff that Pearl preach, I'm like, man, honestly, the stuff she's saying doesn't even scare me away from marriage. You say, hey, let me just go hurry up and get married now, but with the right person, only based because I don't even want to deal with people like that. And I'm sure you probably, and this is me probably guessing for you guys, I'm pretty sure when y'all see like single people or you see stuff like this, you're like, dang, I'm glad I'm married. I'm glad I got kids. I'm glad it's just me and you in the house, boo. Yeah, well, else snotty runny nose, and we lay in bed together. I'd rather have that another 18 years versus dealing with somebody like this. Like you out, and you out safely. Shout out to Jay. Jay says I was 6 feet tall and I ran my PT Cruiser in the ditch. Hey, you had a PT Cruiser? Me too, but I didn't run in a ditch. I did not have a PT Cruiser. Inky says Gray Pills married fever. No, not really. Not really. But I think I know the good. I know the good the good would come with the bad. I don't ever think the bad of the stuff that Pearl's saying. I don't ever think of the bad of like the fresh and fits and the Rolos, which is weird because Rolo like 27 years old. 27 years of marriage, and he speaks very ill of marriages, which I don't understand that. If I was married for that long, I would say, hey, let me just give out the right tools to people. Maybe it's something that they're not seeing that I'm seeing that maybe can help them out. That's if I was Rolo, that's what I would do. And same thing like Pearl. Pearl has no experience. So I will be looking for guys with a level head that actually has good experience as far as marriage goes. Let me talk to them. Matter of fact, go to counseling. There's groups for that, but nobody want to put in the work for themselves and say, hey, if that's your ideal goal, go for that. Now, I wouldn't recommend you go on the show called Love is Blind, but some people do that. It works for others. Might be what, a 2 out of 10 success rate for that one. Heck, they're on season 4, so we'll see how that goes. Shout out to them.
Individual, not a mere statistic. So, what about marriage? It's true that even if you do everything right, things can still fall apart if your spouse doesn't follow that program. Now, if you both do everything right, or even most things right, then your chance of divorce is basically zero. But you can do everything on your end, and maybe your spouse doesn't do the same, and then it falls apart anyway, and that happens, and it's terrible, but it happens. It's also true that there are many, many things you can do in your marriage and before your marriage to make it much more secure than the average. Obvious things. Like you can marry someone who shares your same fundamental values. Correct. Not everyone does that.
Correct.
In fact, a lot of people don't. A lot of people go into marriages knowing ahead of time that they're marrying someone who doesn't share their fundamental values.
Correct.
Their chances of divorce are going to be somewhere much higher than yours if you don't make that basic entry-level mistake that they have made. You can do other things. Like you can state from the outset that you both in principle don't believe in divorce and won't consider it as a viable option for solving any marital difficulties you may experience down the line. You can have a strong and shared faith. You can establish from the beginning a habit of honest communication. You can make time for each other. You can continue to date, even or especially as your lives get busier and you start having kids and so on.
And that happens too all the time. It may be a moment in the relationship between you and your significant other to like y'all both so busy, time went by. And let's say, for example, a month go by for the both of you where you don't have sex, you didn't think about it, where you just passing each other by when you both had to sit there and say, oh, wow, we never had some time. Now kids play a factor in it. Like, wow, we really got to make some time for us because the moment we have kids, it's not even about us no more. It's not about me no more. We're having so many separate relationships. I'm having a relationship with myself because I always came first before I met you. I'm having a relationship with you. We're having a relationship with us. Now we're having a relationship with the child. Make that make sense. And at this point right here that Matt Walsh is talking, I believe he's talking directly to Pearl as he's talking to everybody else. But I know Pearl out there with her 7 feet tall, hunchback, linked over, ginger looking, thin hair self, all gums, no teeth, single for 3 years. I'm very sure she's not going to listen to nothing this guy is saying. Because again, what they always say, chew the meat and spit out the bones. He's giving very sound advice to anybody. Take the time. Take the time. If it's not working out for you, we've seen this before, whether it's men and women. Sometimes women be a little bit more vocal about it. Hey, I'm 31. I'm 33. I want. That's not how the Lord works for you. If you have to sit there and bet and pray and beg for a husband, you're looking for disaster. Same thing for the fellas. You're looking for disaster. Shout out to Inky. Inky says, don't forget to have fun with each other. Still a kid. Yeah, I agree 100%. But me personally, that's a great sound advice. At the same time, if something happens to me, I want not 5 people to call. I would love to know that one person specifically for me is there for me. If my car break down, and I'm speaking on both ends, something happened to you at work, she there, she got your back. If you're sick, she there, she got your back. If she sees signs, and these is for the married folks out here, because they know better than I do. The married folks like, look, it's certain things my husband may do and he might got the bug. There's certain things my wife may do. I could just tell she feel a little bit ill. Am I right or wrong? There's certain things my significant other says and do that give me telltale signs about them that maybe they having a bad day before they even have to do the whole lecture of conversation or what the men say out there. Oh, she's nagging me. No, sometimes men know they women just as much as women know they men. Periods. So for me, that's the type of relationship I want. I want somebody to know me on that point where it don't have to be no long. If I got to keep explaining, red flag right there. Shout out to Big D. Appreciate you, good sir. Again, if you're new, definitely hit the subscribe button. It helps out a lot. If you are coming on through or passing through, hit the thumbs up on the bell on that. It helps out tremendously. And also make sure you hit the bell notification because YouTube does silly things and we don't like that.
You make a strong effort to be patient with and grateful to each other. You can take care of your body and your appearance. You can do all these things and more.
And you could do it together. Woo! Wouldn't that be fun? Hey, we can cook together. We can make meals together. What do you like? Oh, I never tried that food before. Let's go in the kitchen and make that. Or better yet, since you like to cook and I don't want to mess you up. You know what? What you need? You want me to chop up the lettuce and stuff? You want me to sit and prep everything, get the dishes and everything in order while you doing this? Okay, cool. Sound like romance right there. Exercise, you can do that together too. Okay, babe, we're so busy together. We missed a whole month off. How about we do this? We both have a day off set together. Let's make that day like a workout day. Let's make that day, let's get out the house. Let's make the day like a drive. We both maybe like listen to the same music. Babe, you make a playlist. I'll make a playlist. Let's hit the road together. Full tank of gas. Dinner's on me. Let's go. Inky, you ain't ready for that. You ain't ready for that, Inky.
Now, I'm not saying that if you do all of this, it will bring your divorce chance down to zero. I'm not denying that there are plenty of people out there who did all this, at least on their own end, and yet still ended up divorced. That's not my point. My point is that the divorce rate doesn't take any of that into account. The people who take none of these basic steps are lumped in with the people who do all of it, and we're supposed to believe that both groups have an equal chance of marital failure. That's just not true.
Correct.
Now, I don't deny that there are real serious problems with marriage in our society. The so-called red pill people and others, they raise totally legitimate and important points on that end. We need drastic reform, abolish no-fault divorce. The entire family court system has to be torn down and rebuilt. The system is stacked against men in many ways that are extremely unfair and have ruined countless lives. So let's fight for those reforms, absolutely. But this systemic problem is not going to be solved today or tomorrow or next week. Abolishing no-fault divorce is just the beginning of reforming the system. Lawmakers in a small number of red states have only just started to seriously consider that idea, which is merely step one. So we're a long way off from fixing the system. It took decades to get us here. It will take decades to get us out at best. Anyone who tells you anything else is selling you something.
He just called it. Let's play that one back. This is for the slow people in the back of the bus. This is for the people in the back of the church. You know, the ones back in the church, the ones that don't want to watch everybody else see how much money they put in collection plate. If that person put in $5, they'll put in $2. If the other person put in $10, they'll put in $3. He's talking. A lot of people not listening. Pearl.
At best. Anyone who tells you anything else is selling you something.
That sound like a grifter to me. Anybody who's selling you something sound like grifting to me. And they're not adding solutions to nothing. They're just saying things, yelling and screaming, controversial stuff. Sounds familiar, Pearl? Sounds familiar, Pearl? You got two loving mother and father, both career people. Your mom is a career person, started a business with her husband. It wasn't her father started the business. That's documented too. It wasn't your father started a business and brought in the mother and she just helped and assist. No, They worked at it together. They were sitting there boinking each other in college. Okay. And while they sitting there tapping each other back and forth in college, guess what they had? They had a child by unprotected sex. And when they had that, they got rid of the child. Oops. But again, that's not news. That's something you spoke about, Pearl, constantly. That's something your parents opened up to the forefront. Pearl, you see how the hypocrisy sounds? You see how when you point fingers at everybody else, you see how when you call other women whales, when you see how when you talk about the opposite race, but yet at the same time, you're dating the opposite race. At the same time, you're trying to make your mark in the world. Everything is a straight hypocrisy. And it's okay if you are overweight. It's okay if you are dating somebody the opposite race of you that's not big as you. There's nothing wrong with that. But what's wrong is when you start talking and speaking ill of everybody else, and you can't look at yourself in the mirror. So this is why I say it got to be an illness. It got to be a sickness. We got to call it for what it is. It's a grift. It's a haggle. She has no experience. So yes.
Telling you a bill of goods. This is a decade-long, long-term struggle.
Shout out to Mrs. She Said, yes. But at the same time, no, I'm not shaming. I'm not shaming. By the definition, I am shaming, but at the same time, I'm giving some very critique advice to Hannah Pearl Davis out there. And Matt Walsh, for some reason, it hit his globe, and he said, hey, let me speak about it. Let me speak about it. Shout out to Jay. Jay said, according to Pearl's close friends, Nick Fuentes, are issues with dating outside their race, but yet he had them twerking on him at Fresh and Fit platform. He has black women that he calls bees and the N words with the NR. He have them twerking. He flirt with them. And again, Nick Fuentes also stated multiple times he will date and sleep with them. So I don't know what issues he claimed he has. And at the same time, also Nick Fuentes is like, but how is he now 21 and self-proclaimed himself a virgin? So again, the issue is not everybody else outside the bubble. The issue is you. The issue got to be you. If you're always screaming, pointing fingers, name calling at everybody else, you're clearly projecting. It's you. It's you. And unfortunately, Pearl doesn't see it, which I say is an illness. It is a sickness. We already know what Nick Fuentes is about. He's this extremist radical, says a bunch of crap. They try to make his own point. So I can care about him any more, any less.
The question is, what are young men, young people in general, supposed to do in the...
Oh yeah, I'm shaming. I'm being very sarcastic, Mrs. He Shit. I'm shaming. That's per definition. I'm shaming. I'm being sarcastic, but yes, I am. I'm good either way. Am I not? Or I am. I can care less, but I am.
Meantime,
it's valid. It's very valid.
And this is where the red pill becomes more of a hazy, foggy, ambiguous pill. They
never
have no answer. They simply shout about reforms that are needed, yet have nothing to say to the young men in our culture today who will be old, if not dead, by the time the system is fixed, if it's ever fixed at all. What are these young men supposed to do right now? What kind of life would you have them lead right now, today?
That's easy, Matt Walsh. Keep smashing, pay for girls, go on sugar baby websites, go on OnlyFans, which is, by the way, since we want to talk about data statistics, the number rise of all of that is through the roof. It's through the roof. That's what they're going to do. They're going to sit there, scream and rage, where they at one hand waving and screaming with their fists open, the other hand circle jerking themselves. That's pretty much what they're going to do, Mr. Walsh. That's exactly what they're going to do. which is funny. Again, you're married with a family. You pretty much more success, got the success rate in that one. So why would we turn to you? But instead, we turn to single people like Pearl, damaged people like Pearl. Got all the answers. So easy to jump on the anger scream train versus it's like, you know what? Let me try to figure it out. And I get it. I've been on both sides of the fence, right? If you get hurt or you hurt, it creates waves. If you see somebody that hurts you, it's that one person. Doesn't mean it's everybody else. But if the second person hurts you, if the third person hurts you, at that moment, I would say after the first incident, at that moment, you got to look at yourself. Yes, that person was dead wrong. Yes, that person's a butthole. Yes, this person was A, B, C, and D. But at the same time, at that moment, you got to look at yourself. How do I know how to move a little bit more better moving forward? You got to look at yourself on everything. We're not saying, hey, take the blame off the person that actually committed the crime within you and your emotions and your feelings and disrespecting you. But at the same time, you got to look at yourself. What attracted to me to that person? What made me stay with that person? What made me continue to stay with that person when I knew all the red flags? And you know how I know people know all the red flags? So funny. Which is a simple story. So funny. Think back, right? Because every relationship is not perfect. We'll say the guys and the fellas in the chat that's over 25 years old, and of course you had a girlfriend, you had to play dates. It was cool in the beginning, right? But when that relationship ended, didn't you think in the back of your head when you was either complaining or gossiping or venting to your friends, you saw all the red flags in the beginning, but you started speaking of it now when you're hurt. Think about that. So you already knew. Use that example and say, you know what? I'm not going to be that type of person. I'm not going to be that naive. I'm not going to be that ignorant to certain factors moving forward with the next relationship. Maybe your success rate might be a little bit more better. But here's a caveat. There's devils in the details. You're going to always meet somebody different. You're going to always meet somebody different. So that's where it comes to vetting and boundaries. Think about it.
The answer, it appears, is that an entire generation of young men, if not multiple generations, should skip marriage while we wait for the system to improve. But this is not a viable solution. It's not a solution at all. It's a surrender. You're asking entire generations to give up their bloodline, their legacy, their chance of finding the transcendent joy and meaning that family life can provide. You're asking them to give up on themselves and on civilization itself. For thousands of years, human beings have always understood that their most basic purpose and obligation was to form families and have children. And yet you're telling these young men to ignore this calling and do what instead? Live for themselves alone, wasting away in front of screens, only to die with no descendants, leaving no lasting mark on the world?
I'm gonna be honest, if that's their choice, they need to be happy with it and stop complaining. If that is your actual choice, be happy with the choices you made and don't complain. Don't complain. If you're that guy that say, hey, I just want to get laid, okay. Sugar baby website, clean hookers, strippers, prostitutes, escorts, go handle your business. Go handle your business. If you want a girlfriend, hey, start working on yourself, get some counseling, get a big brother program, get into a big brother program, find a peer mentor, a leadership program. It's out there. Heck, it's out there.
Think about the kind of misery you're consigning these men to. Think about the catastrophic, probably fatal effect this would have on our country.
She don't care.
You can't give up on propagating the species for a few decades and then pick it back up again like nothing happened. That doesn't work on any level, individually or societally. It is a recipe for despair and collapse. Am I saying that young men and women should accept the risk then and get married anyway? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. That doesn't mean you should be reckless. I've already talked about many practical things you can do to mitigate your own risk so that it's not a roll of the dice. You should do all those things. Don't go into marriage blind,
No.
but don't run from it either.
No, exactly.
Even if you mitigate the risk to the extent possible, still there will be a risk. That's true. But here's the rub. All good things come with risk. The more
Did I say that?
worthwhile it is,
Everything comes with risk. That's life. Everything comes with risk. You could be with somebody for 20 years to be so happy they could be gone. I can get me a vehicle, something can happen. It could be gone. It can be gone. These type of people have issues. Man, everything is a risk.
worse and more disastrous it will be if you fail. If you take on more responsibility, then your life will be more consequential. And the more consequential your life is, the more cataclysmic your failures potentially become.
This is true.
A married man with children lives a life of greater consequence than a single man with no children.
Oh.
There are more people depending on him. He has a greater stake in the future. This means that if things go sideways, it'll be a tragedy. If he screws up or his wife screws up or they both do, his life will be ruined. His children will be devastated. And the impact will reverberate down through the generations. This is what it means to live a high impact, consequential
just like Pearl's
life.
mama and daddy, who was shaboinking and going through all types of sexual locomotions through college, had the kid, and then said, "Oh, you know what? We don't want the kid no more, so we're gonna get rid of the kid." So just I know I'm pregnant. Let me go ahead and just do either plan B or get the abortion or whatever. Nope. I'm gonna go ahead and go through the whole 8-9 months of labor, have the baby, push the baby out, put the baby up for adoption. That baby going through a whole bunch of crap. I don't know who I am. I don't know who it is, but they'll have like 8 more other children, spread them seeds all the world, and them 9 children might come around him, might be female, sleep with him, don't even know who he is, but mom and dad know. That's a story too. It happens. So again, think about it. Pearl. Think about it, Pearl.
These are the stakes. And yes, they are quite high. Now, sure, you can stave off that sort of catastrophe by staying by yourself, never going out on a limb, never taking any risk, never marrying, never having kids, never striving for anything great or meaningful in life. But then you're not avoiding failure and misery. You are guaranteeing it. You are ensuring that you never lose your family in a divorce by never having a family to lose in the first place, which is like ensuring that you never go bankrupt by being bankrupt to begin with.
Exactly.
I'm not going to lose all my money because I'm going to stay broke. I beat the system.
I ain't gonna lie, that's something the Brad Pitt would say. I swear to you, I think that's something they would say. Oh man, that was funny. Shout out to Inky. Inky says the young generation is different. The younger generation is different perspective than we do women that quality yet to be still treated as a lady, men to feel masculine, which is destroying the whole couple of precretions. Sorry, I had to say no paragraph. Squeeze that in. Okay, I got you.
Not losing by having nothing to lose is a loss in itself. And I don't want that for anyone. It's not a path to happiness and prosperity for either you or society. It is a path to defeat, a preemptive and self-imposed defeat. And that is the worst kind of all. Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access to my full show with...
Hey, I appreciate that. Here's something I wanted to share. This was like literally a year ago. Just to give more context of Pearl shenanigans, this is like a year ago. So okay, cool. All right. So this was like about a year ago, where if you see on the far right where it says let go on the channel, if you scroll down, uh, this is when she was like, I don't know, Mark, you pretty much correct me if I'm wrong. I think she was like 2 to 5K at that time. She was doing like open panels. And if you click on here, it's like it says Tom Brady retired. Now divorce question mark. What the F? My thoughts at Just Per Things. Click on video. And let me see who ugly face up there. You see my face. All right, scroll down a little bit. It's about a good year. About a good year ago. So we're gonna blow it up. So I just want to give some context to just Pearl's character.
Bund Chen. Okay. And I find out today that they might be getting divorced. And this was a shock to me because I don't know.
Now, this is at this time, this is when Pearl made up a whole story about, a theory she came up with, a controversial theory about Tom Brady and the divorce and stuff. So this is the conversation she had on her platform. This is when she just moved into to the UK, and she was actually in college volleyball at the time, and she was trying to figure out how to make her way through the YouTube grift, which some people say that she's not a grifter, but I mean, it is what it is.
Know a lot about football. I don't really watch it. But what I do know is that,
by the way, this is her free StreamYard membership is in the top right. So I'm not shaming nobody because a lot of people make good revenue when they're streaming through StreamYard, through YouTube. But she had the wealthy. This is privilege right here that can't afford the StreamYard. I am the broken busy guy, but this is privilege that can't afford the StreamYard membership. But let's go.
this man seems like very religious. Wait, hold on. Share screen. So him getting a divorce, I'm like, what? Who? So I'm going to kind of show you what I found in front of me. I'm going to start with, are Tom Brady and Giselle Bundchen actually getting divorced? One report says their marriage is suffering a $650 million divorce is imminent. According to the National Enquirer,
this is true, Marcus, now, but a year ago it wasn't. It was just a rumor. So let's fact check. At that time, it wasn't. It was a rumor.
Bundchen and Brady are only putting on a happy face. Their obsession with money has put their marriage in danger, a source reveals. Their business, particularly the endorsements, all hinge on them being the super happy couple and Tom being the number one guy in the NFL. Brady's money streams rely on him playing on an MVP level, and that's not going to be sustainable forever, an insider says. They really don't have a picture for what comes when Tom's NFL career is over, at least not one that they're sharing with anybody. The two aren't thinking of vacations of this family anymore. Their only thoughts are how to make as much money as possible, an insider concludes. They're more concerned with cashing into the max while they still can, which is needless for a couple who's as filthy rich as they are. This story is all over the place because it can't decide what angle it wants to take. It alludes to trouble between Tom Brady and Giselle. The reliable.
All right, we're going to move forward because that's a whole bunch of 5 minutes of dribble. So she's reading the article. I think like a minute comes up. So we'll get to my happy-go-lucky face, and then we'll take it from there.
Article? Probably not. Are any gossip articles reliable? Hi.
Hey, what's going on?
How are you?
I'm doing dandy.
So, what do you think about the topic tonight?
You gotta kind of update me a little bit on the topic. I was streaming through and I came across you. I'm a fan.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about Tom Brady getting divorced and if it's hypergamy.
Oh wow.
Do you know anything about that?
I know of Tom Brady.
So basically he met his wife. She married him at 29. Do you know Rolo's chart?
Yeah, I heard about Rolo and it's amazing.
It's basically that she married Tom Brady at 29 and she dated
Yeah, Jay. Like people think, Jay. When I be saying stuff, people be swearing I be making stuff up, man. When I say stuff, people swear I be. This is like over a year ago. This is literally over a year ago. She had like what 2 to 5K subs. She was on this whole grid from the beginning. Before she was doing videos like this, she was doing like we already knew like the videos of she was doing like the typical white girl react videos. She was trying to rap like black guy videos. Then she was reacting to Kevin Samuel videos, which is like this stream up there. She just happened to be on Kevin Samuel's. That she lied and said that she got paid services from Kevin. Like I said, when I say stuff, people swear up and down like I just be making up this stuff. Or I literally was on a Discord conversation, Jay, where I'm like, yeah, Pearl's a grifter. It's like, no, Pearl's not. You don't know Pearl. I'm like, I know Pearl better than you do. I know Pearl better than you do. So please, 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 please stop talking. Stop talking. This is funny. So if Marcus and Pinky will give me like a 2-minute intermission and I will come right back. So give me like a 2-minute intermission. All right, and we're back. I appreciate that. Thank you, Wally. Thank you, Inky. Thank you, Marcus. Shout out to DL. DL says, I'm back. I cleaned up the kitchen, everything. Back in time a little bit, and we're gonna close out very soon. So I just want to give some context to just pro caricature on the situation. So again, this is me a year ago on pulled up on Pro's platform where she was giving like the Tom Brady prediction for the conversation and was trying to connect that with hypergamy. So here we go.
It's basically that she married Tom Brady at 29 and she dated Leonardo DiCaprio until 26. So hypothetically, Leo would be like her alpha widow. And she was partying and stuff before she met Tom Brady. She with Leonardo DiCaprio. She got more spiritual, found God or whatever, like or spirituality, whatever. And then ends up marrying Tom Brady at 29.
That sounds a little bit like the Megan Good story a little bit.
I don't know that story actually.
Well, do you know of Megan Good?
No, that sounds really familiar. I can Google it really quick.
Yeah, the black famous. Well, she's not really
hero
actress. They got married to the pastor for like 9-10 years. Somehow it didn't work out, and then she's doing this high film to get her. I'm trying to be YouTube friendly to get her groceries eaten out on film.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'm looking at this now. I don't know what age all of that happened at, but yeah, that sounds similar from what you're saying.
Yep. So back to Tom Brady.
While they keep up with the conversation, this happened a year ago, Wally. This was a year ago where she was doing panels. This is when she just left out of the States for college volleyball into the UK. And she's been in the UK ever since then. So a year ago. It's on my channel. You're more than welcome to scroll down and take a trip down memory lane.
We'll leave Megan Good on the whole.
So my apologies, Wally. By your grace.
Another story.
Yeah, but basically, now she's 41, which I want to say like on Rollo's chart is around the alpha like reinterest phase. So, yeah, it's like they marry the beta around like their epiphany phase, and then after the epiphany phase, like the kids are a little older. It's like the alpha reinterest, so they want to go back to that.
Now, this moment, this is when she like I ain't gonna lie, this is the moment. Yo, Master Glee, this is the moment she tried to indoctrinate me. It's like, yeah, this is when Rollo started pitching me Rollo. Like, I don't know who Rollo was like over a year ago. Shout out Duke the Dawn back then. He was flapping Duke's, he was flapping Rollo's book like it was a Bible, contradicting everything that Rollo said in the book. And I'm like, okay, clearly I'm not buying that book, but I've never been the one to buy somebody's mansplaining book on how to get relationships, which I think is weird, but I understand people buy stuff like that. So it is what it is. So she's going like try to teach me the ways of Rollo.
Alpha, I guess.
Okay. That sounds like a cute way of saying, like, for example, like, how old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay, cool. So that's like saying you meet your boyfriend around the 20s and he has potential. And then he get everything he needs to become. He might become president, might become a top lawyer, might be in the same financial field as your dad. And then 20 years later, it's like, you know what? I'm capping out. I'm gonna get what I can get from him. I got the family and kids. Let me move on. Does that sound similar to the whole Tom Brady thing?
Yeah, actually a little bit.
Oh wow. Good.
Like Leonardo was a little too wild for her to tame, basically.
I heard low-key he's a freak though, but I mean, I'm just speculating.
What?
I heard low-key he's a freak though, but I'm just speculating.
Well, that's the alpha, like hypothetically, right? So that's the alpha guy is like the one that like rocks her world and she can't stop thinking about. And then she is like, okay, I can't tame him, so I'm gonna go marry the beta.
I can't.
I know.
So then that's the case. Then what is an alpha? Because me personally, I don't use those terminology. So
I hate the terminology. It's just what else do you call it?
Yeah, he hates the terminology. She hates the terminology. She hates the terminology, but she uses it all the time. Yeah, we're gonna make this a part 2. Maybe I don't know, Marcus. Maybe I'm just making stuff up with people. I don't know. Maybe when we say things, we have these conversations. I don't know nothing. Yes, Mister. Very, 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 very clueless. Very clueless. Very clueless. But yeah, we're making it to part 2 where because I know she actually does a response to Tom Brady. Excuse me, she does a response to Matt Walsh. So I'll make that a morning thing. I say 11, 12 o'clock. This is crazy. But again, people like to focus on the influencers. Somebody just hit me up on Facebook. Oh, whoever's on Facebook watching me, I appreciate you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Not tonight, good sir. I should have been up early because actually I was gonna do this in the morning time. Then I was gonna add like a second stream, talk about something else, and then I was gonna make that a group conversation. So nah, this is all me today. This is all me today. I wanna make sure I try to stay on my word when I say, hey, certain people I feel like it's a absolute for conversations. I'm gonna stay on it. But and also to be fair though, DL, I really didn't have time because I was planning to get up a little bit earlier and I have other engagements to be on somebody else's platform I was invited to. So technically I'm already like 6 minutes late. So I know somebody gonna say little slick stuff over there, but it's all fine. Okay, will do. I might make this tomorrow morning as a part 2, but later tonight I'll have like another one for a random conversation for the late night owl guys out there. So again, guys, I appreciate you. The moral story, since we're all about solutions here, the Great Pill Podcast. What's the solution? Stop listening to everybody you hear on TV, especially in media when they try to tell you to do something. I would say low-key fact check everybody, but while you're fact checking them, especially like somebody as basic as Pearl, that's 26 years old, want to give all these advice to people that she doesn't know, that she says a lot of stuff very hypocritical, like for example how women should be, what women should do, when her own mother that raised her and 8-9 other kids, technically she did raise her, but she had the money to actually go out the way and get nannies and housemates and stuff. Again, this is from Pearl's own words. So again, who's out here affording all that? Not me, not you guys, right? So again, if we're not affording all this, why are we going out of the way preaching the good gospel to everybody else when everybody can't afford it? All the fathers out there can't afford nannies and stuff. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of fathers that I know actually want to be hands-on with their kids. They don't want no nanny doing. Same thing with mothers. They got daycares and stuff like that. A lot of mothers out there were like, look, I want my kid around me to a certain age. Okay. Pearl's parents dumped the first kid they had. And it was bumping uglies all through college. Isn't that college supposed to be the prime time? You go and do the right thing and focus, whatever. No. Sometimes college is a little bit of both, of the best of both worlds. You go to college to party, fun. Some most do drugs, most just smash. But the others are, hey, let me stay focused on my degree and move from there. But guess what? That's pretty much how it goes. That was her mom. That was her dad. They was party animals. Nothing wrong with it, but just understand what you get. Just understand the relationship in the world you're living in. We have like 2, 3 married people here in the chat agreeing everything what Matt was saying. Was they first looking for marriage and stuff like that? Possibly not. Did they understand better what they got into? They got into a relationship and knew that this is the real woman or the real man of their life? Yes. Did they move accordingly like I was supposed to? Apparently so. You got one couple in here, 18 years of marriage. Knock on wood. I hope I hope it's another 18. I'm sure it will. By how I see how they interact on their Instagram stories. And again, I might be the guy from the outside looking in, but at the same time, I think I got a good spec, but it's a relationship. So people need to understand when it comes to relationship. I think people need to understand just the life. For example, everything comes with risk. If you got to be that much, have to put so much numbers and make it so much a big argument what you're doing is you're scaring a whole bunch of people off. And the people that's actually regurgitating that, for me, you're projecting, and you have a lot of anxieties for yourself. And you scream, for me, you scream a lot of insecurity. So I think Pearl is very insecure. I think Pearl is damaged in certain ways. I think Pearl is like, it's so many layers to Pearl. It's not even a pearl. It's literally, Pearl is nothing but a piece of burnt coal. That's her character to me. She's coal. She's not Pearl. She's a lump of coal. She just never had enough pressure to turn into a diamond. She's still in her shell, in the water, flapping around. Nothing's coming out of it. Not a spark, not a shine, not a shimmer. And that's very sad. Very sad. And we have people and these influences out there that actually like to push these narratives that's not helping nobody else. It's really not. I haven't heard one person like, yeah, Pearl, you saved my life. Okay, show the testimonies. Okay. So with that being said, low key, yes, Real Femme Sapien, AKK Alley. You're not slick neither. Because you think because you ducking and diving, you don't want to be in the red pill manosphere no more. You hopping on debate channels. Your buddy sit there and remove the video that y'all had a 2-hour whatever conversation in. All right. People keep receipts of that. Just want to let you know, Real Femme Sapien Alley. All right. So I'm not Zesty TV. I'm me. Whatever you put out there on the forefront, I don't care what behind the stage. That's not how I roll like that. But when you have interviews and you say one thing and then you try to preach a narrative with the red pill community, when you don't even understand the manosphere community, the red pill community, you know what I mean? Communities out there on YouTube, Allie, there's so many. And you getting advice from Donovan Sharp, MLD, Pearl, Janelle Gordon. These are all grifters. And I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, Real Femme Sapien, aka Allie. I think you got a good head on your shoulders. I think you do. You actually got out. You actually got married in an opportunistic way, but it's cool. You actually got married. You got out. You got a kid. You got a happy relationship. Focus on that. Okay? Focus on that. And you do a lot better. If everybody want to say they want to help somebody and help the relationship and help this, stay out the grift. Stay out the grift. That is my advice to you, Real Femme Sapien, aka Allie. But let's not be slick. Every time somebody talk about Pearl, you right behind the corners, right behind the virtual streams, hopping on somebody's platform. Okay? Don't act like nobody's slow. We understand. I see how the way you move, and you're trying to fall back from it. Shout out to Tron, and I'll leave this. Her argument would be in a different time. Yeah, in Bizarro World. Only thing Matt had wrong was no fault of the world. Yeah, and that's a conversation. I actually see him having a conversation versus we having a conversation. It can actually be a conversation. And I'm down for that. I'm sure he might give some solutions or some positive pushbacks from there. That could be a conversation. But with Pearl, you know, when you're having a conversation, Jesus Hotep had an interview with her. Nothing. Crickets. H3 Ethan podcast had a conversation with her. Literally threw her own words in her face. Crickets. The girl is damaged goods. So I wish her the best. But it will be a part 2, and a part 3, and a part 4, and a part 5. We're going to have the conversation. So I will check our guys out later, and peace.
At last.
The king's back and the throne's mine. The future's here and it's my time. Straight shot, going for the head with it. Take his head off and say that I did it. Good pittance. Say hi to the bad guy, I'm back in business. If you took what's mine, I'm back to get it. There's nothing you can do, I'm back with vengeance. Now turn me loose. Now turn me loose.